KwaZulu-Natal Health MEC has raised concerns about what she's described as the soaring number of new Covid-19 cases. The eThekwini Municipality accounting for at least 80% of new cases in the province. This comes as the region is still recovering from the devastating floods that left hundreds of people without shelter. For more on the story, we're joined by our reporter Karinda Jagmohan, who's in Durban for us this morning. Karinda, give us a breakdown of the statistics insofar as Covid-19 infections in your province is concerned.
Indeed. Well, we understand that the 7-day average of COVID-19 cases, these numbers are rising, and the last average was up to a 20% increase, which the Health MEC, Nomagugu Simelane Zulu, describes as a trigger alert of a possible resurgence of COVID-19 cases. The Health Minister has also raised concern about the country possibly entering a fifth wave. It remains unclear whether or not these rise of COVID-19 cases nationally is attributed to a fifth wave or perhaps because of travel during the Easter weekend. But nonetheless, KwaZulu-Natal is seeing increases in COVID-19 cases. And like you mentioned, eThekwini Municipality, this region, which is the most populous in KZN, has about 80% of those new cases. Actually, on the 30th of April, we recorded 1,724 infections in this province, eThekwini accounting for 80% of these infections. The MEC also raising concern about the number of people being hospitalized. She said that over 400 people remain in hospital, both in private and public hospitals, with at least 47 people in ICU. She's also conveyed concern about the number of people that remain unvaccinated. At least 2.7 million people have been fully vaccinated, but Michelle, countrywide, there's 4.4 million people that are yet to receive their first jab. So at this point, it is worrying. And like you mentioned, KwaZulu-Natal is still recovering, reeling from the deadly floods, and of course last year from the July unrest. And this was the province where we saw the first COVID-19 case back in 2020. So it's been a tumultuous period for this province, and at this point there are 7,000 people living in community shelters across the country, especially in eThekwini, where more than 6,000 people have been left homeless because their homes, their shelters were destroyed by torrential rain at the start of April. So this is the concern here, where you have people that do not have homes. They're struggling to find their feet following those deadly floods, and of course now facing another health concern because of a seemingly rise and resurgence of COVID-19 cases in this province.
Yes, certainly. In fact, Karinda, you touched on it already, but I was going to ask you about exactly that. You know, what is the Health MEC saying about what needs to be done now? We're seeing this spike in cases around the country. Of course, it's hitting certain areas particularly hard in KZN because of the addition of the recovery due to floods as well. But what happens now? Is there an encouragement for people, more people to vaccinate? Will there be more vaccination drives?
Absolutely. There's always been a call for people to go out and vaccinate, and the number of unvaccinated people remains a major cause for concern countrywide. Like I mentioned, 4.4 million people yet to receive their first dose of the vaccine related to COVID-19. So indeed, as we're seeing this resurgence, we do expect more drives to vaccinate. But along with this, we've seen organizations like Doctors Without Borders just commenting on the fact that people remain without shelter. They're congregating in community shelter spaces, and essentially calling on eThekwini Municipality, the municipality themselves, looking for the state to reprioritize empty hotels or empty buildings in which people can be housed, just so they can be safe. They're not congregating in spaces where we know when you are in close proximity and we see a resurgence of COVID-19, there is a possibility of transmission of this virus. And so indeed, to protect this province from entering into another tragic fifth wave of COVID-19 in this case, and to prevent from essential aspects like tourism and other businesses from seeing more closures. There are organizations that are essentially calling for KZN to sort of rebuild in a way that will ensure we're not seeing people congregating in areas like community shelters, to ensure people can come along and assist those who need it the most. The province has essentially been through a lot over the past 3 years, from being the starting point of COVID-19, going through the deadly July unrest, and of course this one of the worst natural disasters we've seen in recent history.
Yeah, absolutely. The KZN province certainly being battered at the moment. Karinda Jagmohan, thanks very much indeed for giving us that perspective.